I did films I hate but everyone else likes, and now I'm going to be doing shows this time. These are the shows that I hate that everyone else likes. Now, some of these shows have probably been getting like 5 or 4 stars in the past, and if you do like them, then you go off and like them, but just don't bash me opinion or anything like that. And without further ado, let's dive into the video. Number 6, Robot Chicken. Robot Chicken was a show that I wanted to like, but back in the day, I used to think the animation was cheap and lazy, and that's why I didn't like it, and there was also the terrible jokes. But nowadays, I found out that the animation was deliberately meant to be shit, and that it's part of the charm. Nowadays, the animation doesn't really bug me, but some of the jokes do work occasionally, but some of them were just mostly passable, so yeah. Number 5, Happy Tree Friends. Now, I'm a bit of a hypocrite for hating on this show because I absolutely love dark humour more than any genre. But let's be real, if done right, dark humour can be absolutely hilarious, but if done wrong, it can just look sad. And a good example of how dark humour being done right is with Smile and Friends. Smile and Friends' dark humour is executed perfectly and is timed very well. And it comes across as both charming, reasonable, and hilarious. Happy Tree Friends just comes across as forced, exaggerated, and even depressing at times. The execution on the dark humour doesn't feel like it wants to get a laugh out of you. It just feels like it wants to make you feel sorry for them, or just not only try and get a reaction out of people. Poorly executed, but it happens throughout the entire show, getting more gruesome and gruesome by the minute. And it happens throughout the entire show. It becomes so predictable to a point where I was actually shocked when a character started getting little minor cuts. So yeah, this show just doesn't really appeal to me, and I think it could have been better. Number 4, Mr. Pickles. Mr. Pickles is gross, not in a funny, endearing way, just an awkward, obnoxious, and creepy way. The theme song was dead forgettable, the characters were very unappealing, and some of the stuff they do throughout the show is just so absurd and come out dead randomly. Number 3, Ren and Stimpy. I thought Mr. Pickles was gross, but Ren and Stimpy takes the gross humour to a whole new level. I remember watching one episode back in the day when I used to eat me tea while watching TV, and I kid you not, I nearly threw up while watching the episode because of how gross it was. I can't remember the name of the episode, but it nearly put me off my appetite to eat me food. And so I've never watched Ren and Stimpy since. The two main characters were ugly and very unappealing, and the humour just feels so slow and so forced in a way. Number 2, South Park. South Park does have its fair share of good episodes from time to time, but behind all the good episodes, there's an avalanche of severe controversy. In 2019, I was looking for the episode where Cartman fights the midget, and I was surprised to know that it was the episode where Randy Marsh says the N-word on national TV. Now, I'm alright with movies saying like racial comments in their media as long as they don't go too far with them. But in South Park's case, they do go too far with them. And not just saying it like once or twice like in Hell and Back. They say it over 40 times. Needless to say, I really did not find it funny, and there's absolutely nothing funny about saying the N-word, and saying it that many times in one episode was enough to take me off an entire show. It shocked me. It was more of a than it was a ha-ha. Like, most people, did come up saying that they found the episode funny. Like, I get that comedy is subjective, but I just could not find anyone finding it funny at all. Because the execution just really did not get a laugh out of me at all. Another thing that I did not really like about South Park would be the catchphrases. Now, I'm not really that much of a fan on like catchphrases in certain shows, but some of them are funny, but others can't. Like I think South Park's catchphrases are really overrated. Like there's the okay, there's the middle kitty and the oh my god, they killed Kenny gag. And these gags get repeated throughout the entire show, especially oh my god, they killed Kenny. And that happens in like virtually every episode, and there's no modification to it at all. And it wasn't particularly funny in the first place. Like, it could have worked the first time they did it or the other time, but they repeat it throughout the entire show that it just gets old within seconds. I think a great example of how to do a good catchphrase is in Family Guy. Like, in Family Guy, there's a character called Glenn Quagmire who has this iconic catchphrase, Giggity. And the reason why Giggity works is because he doesn't use it every time he's introduced. He will only use it for, like, certain reasons. Above everything, it is funny. And he constantly modifies it over time and tries to be as creative as possible. Like ones such as Giggity and Crabbity Giggity, Ribbity, and a few others. Now, before I get to number one, I have these two honourable mentions. Skylanders Academy. Now, Skylanders Academy, I never really liked this show purely because of its humour and the fact that they copy and pasted those little sloth-looking creatures. But I could not really put it on the list or even say no to it because I did like the characters. I thought the character designs, the main characters in general, were very fascinating. And the theme song, I thought the theme song was very nostalgic. Like, every time I listen to it, it just brings me back nostalgic memories of 2018. So yeah, that's why I just could not put it in the list. Hazbin Hotel. Now, first things first, I want to talk about the animation of this show. The animation, it was astounding despite being a YouTube series. Like, it's very high quality animation despite being a YouTube video. But and I thought the characters were very likable and adorable and all that. But the thing that really put me off about the show was the execution. Like, I just never liked the execution on the demons. I thought they were a bit too generic, like, and evil. Not evil in a cool way, but like evil in a more obnoxious and pathetic, and not pathetic, but generic way. And the humour just felt very unoriginal to me and a bit thrown in and stuff, and I just never really liked it. Like, I'm a bit of a hypocrite for saying that because Helen Bach does do a similar thing with their demons, but at least Helen Bach's was more funny in a way and managed to get a laugh out of me. But in Hazbin Hotel, I just could not really see myself laughing at it at all. So, all in all, I just think Hazbin Hotel just could have been better. And finally, the number one show that I hate that everyone else likes is Beastars. Fucking Beastars. I can't think of a show more hyped up than Beastars. Like, this show was proper hyped up back in 2019, and I can't think of a show that was more hyped up than Beastars. Now, back in 2019, when this show was first coming into light, I didn't think it was that bad. And I actually thought it was pretty good, but I wasn't as hyped up as everyone else was. I mean, so I actually thought the character, when I first watched it, I thought the characters looked really adorable. But as I persisted episode by episode, I ended up not liking it. I do hear a lot of people saying that this show is consistent with Zootopia, and I can understand that, but when I binge watched the entire show, it came clear to me that it was more consistent to Tokyo Ghoul than anything else. From the characters, to the story, to the dialogue, to the motivation, the world building, everything about this show was just so consistent with Tokyo Ghoul. For example, Ken Kaneki's backstory is that his father passed away when he was a baby, and then as he got older, his mum passed away. And Hide looked up to him and treated him like a brother figure. Then we have Jack and Legoshi's backstory. Like, Legoshi, his father ran away and his mother passed away when he was around the same age as Kaneki. And simultaneously, Jack stepped in, and in the manga, it states that Jack was a replacement for his mother. Like, he felt like family to him. Now, in my honest opinion, Beastars is confusing. Not confusing in an interesting way. It's confusing in a more surprising way. My mate often tells me that in most animes there are characters that look young but are actually really old. I got the same vibe from Beastars, but it was the opposite way around. Like, when you look at the characters in Beastars, they all look about like 20, 30 years old. But they are actually, all of them are teens. Next up, we have the style of the show. Now, when I first seen the show, I assumed it was set around like the 18th century or 19th century. But when they started like whipping out their iPhones or showing the projectors and stuff, I was like, oh wait, never mind. And then we have all the sexual references, which for the most part come out of completely nowhere and don't add anything to the story. In fact, I was actually quite surprised of how much sexual references were in this show. I mean, it had like porn magazines, strip clubs, pervertisy, fucking porn magazines. You know, just the typical stuff. Like, it doesn't make the show endearing. It just makes the show painfully awkward to look at. And the cuteness of the characters just goes from ugly straight away to a point where I just never really cared about them. Lastly, I want to talk about the animation. The animation is the whole reason for why the show was popular to begin with. Now, at a casual glance, the animation looks visually stunning for a typical anime, but that is until you start binge watching the show when the shit hits the fan. Now, I know in most 3D animes, they'll often have like 2D characters as background characters, but in Beastars' case, they do have that, but then they start like adding the 2D characters in with the 3D characters, and you can easily tell which one's different compared to the two based on the shading, the movement, and all the above. And it starts persisting throughout episode 10 and beyond, to where the animation, the beauty of the animation is just long gone and just ends up making it look messy. And this isn't like Dora, where the animation in that show was deliberately messy, but that was part of the charm. And at least the creators behind that show had an idea of what they were executing. Beastars was trying to be lazy, which is why I don't feel it's worth giving it the credit. Also, when the people said back years ago in 2019 that the show was full-on 3D animation, I believed them. But when I started binge watching the show, I just soon realised that it's a bunch of damn lies. So yeah, at the end of the day, I do not like this show. It's awkward, it's unpredictable, and it's just so unoriginal. I did make 3 stop-motion movies called Comic-Con Trilogy, which did include Beastars, but now looking back on it, I regret putting them in. That is it for this video. Please subscribe for more content, and I'll see you all in the next video.